Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to talk about playing with emotion, doing these dramatic string bends and taking each note and milking it for all it's worth. Very similar to the way that Eric Clapton plays. And so we're going to be talking about kind of that style of playing. It's a much different approach than a technical way of playing, where you're playing with speed and you're worrying about the synchronization between your left and your right hand and what scales you're on and trying to follow the chord changes and all of those things that can trip us up. And I always kind of look at improvising, and there's kind of two paths. You can go down that path, and every now and then you should step a foot onto that path just to sort of make your playing sound a little better or more advanced. But some of the best stuff comes from this sort of emotional playing, which is all about playing in the key of the song. So this song we're going to be playing in is in the key of E. We're going to be playing in the key of E, and we're only going to be limiting ourselves to just a few notes. So we're not going to be playing all of the fretboard, just a handful of notes, and we're going to be using major pentatonic scale for the most part. Every now and then we'll do some minor pentatonic scale. It's all stuff that you know, though. So it's not technical and it's not complicated. And I'm saying all of this up front just to let you know that if you feel intimidated by trying to improvise, this would be a great lesson for you. You can do this. It's not limited to Eric Clapton. It's not limited to musical prodigies. As long as you've got some emotion in you and some kind of a feel and a decent ear, it doesn't have to be perfect, you can do this. And so not everybody feels the same thing. So I hate to say, like, just play what you feel, because that doesn't mean anything. We're all feeling different things. But if you feel what you play, that's a different way of thinking about that. And so we're going to break down everything that I played in the intro note for note, and I'll also improvise over the jam track. I'm going to improvise and talk it through and kind of let you know the thought process behind that. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of everything. If you'd like to join us for part 2, where we go over the second half and download the tablature and also the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos, so that you can take all this material and practice it and playing over that jam track. You can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP577. Okay, so I mentioned Eric Clapton, and he was a big influence on me when I first started playing. I got into guitar in sort of the later part of the 80s. I think August had just come out. His album, August, Eric Clapton's album. And I loved that album. It was just so, it had an 80s vibe. It sounds a little 80s and a little dated now, but his playing and his singing was just killer. And there was a lot of these bends I would hear. Where you bend and then you release and then you come into a vibrato. You know, that's like two notes, right? So that isn't anything technical, but I would just fixate on the fact that, wow, okay, he didn't do anything technical there that I didn't understand. I understand two notes and I can work those out by my ear. But the way that he manipulated those notes was the kind of thing I couldn't do. And so anytime I hear somebody rip on Eric Clapton, every now and then somebody will say, oh, he doesn't have, I'll see this in just comments here and there. They'll say something about his technique or his technical ability. They're missing the point with Eric Clapton. Eric is a whole different level to me, and players like him, they suck me in a very different way. It's one thing to hear somebody like Eddie Van Halen. To me, that's like juggling with 9 balls. I see it and I go, wow, that's crazy. I'll never do that, but great, awesome. When I hear Eric Clapton, I go, I think I can do some of that. And that pulls you in a different way. That's why guys like him are such legends. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that in one area. Actually, let's just go ahead and look at that. So the song's in the key of E, and I'm playing an E chord right here using the C shape. Now I'm between the 4th fret and the 7th fret. You don't have to play this chord. I'm just showing you kind of where we're at. This goes back to the cage system. This is our E chord using the C shape. Now inside of this container, or this neighborhood, we have the E major pentatonic scale. Let's look at just a piece of that. We're going to be on the 4th string and play frets 4 and 6. We're going to do the same thing on the 3rd string. And we're going to move up to the 2nd string now and play frets 5 and 7. Now that's easy. You can do that, right? If you've got your guitar, you can follow along. That's most of what we're going to be doing. If you can do that, you're at least in terms of scale, that's where most of it's coming from. Now, when we get to the 7th fret 2nd string, we're going to do a full bend. A full bend means you go up 2 frets from where you start. A half bend means you go up 1 fret, just as a reference. So you've got that bend. And then there's 2 other notes. I'll just throw them in. We're going to go up to the 1st string now and play fret 4. And then come up to the 7th fret. So our bendable notes, the ones we're going to be bending, are this 7th fret 2nd string with a full bend, and then this 7th fret 1st string. We can do a full bend on that as well. That's most of it. That's your parameters. Now with that, I can start to improvise and play a lead just using that little bit that I showed you there. And so that wasn't doing anything outside of that. Now I want to put on the jam track and just take the first 2 chords, actually the first section of this. So this jam track has kind of an A section and a B section. We're going to look at the A section, and I'm just going to loop it over and over again, and then I'm going to talk about some improvising ideas out of over that jam track. Now everything I'm going to be doing is going to be in this area that I just showed you. There is this one root note, which is your E note, this 5th fret 2nd string. I kind of keep coming back to that. So I just wanted to kind of plant that seed. That's your E note there. And so we're going to let that sort of be our anchor. Okay, so we have the jam track that's looping. Let me just go over the chords real quick before we jump into everything so you know what we're playing over. There's 2 main chords here. The first chord is an E, that chord. I know there's a quick chord before that. I'll explain that in a minute. The next chord is an A. So we go from the E to the A. Those are our main 2 chords. Now before I get to that E, watch this. I go like this. I hit an A real quick. Before I get to the A, I hit a D. So why am I doing that? I'm playing the 4 chord of the chord I'm going to. So if I'm going to an E, its 4 chord is an A. If I'm going to the A, its 4 chord is a D. That's a little idea for you if you're looking for some chord ideas if you're writing a song. Now we don't have to worry about any of that because we're going to just be playing in the key of the song. So we don't have to think about any of that. I'm just pointing that out to you. So the song's in the key of E, right? And I said we're going to be playing out of this C container. That's our E chord using the C shape. And we're going to be playing this major pentatonic scale right in there. Now the first note that I want you to pay attention to, and grab a guitar and play along with me on this if you've got one. It's going to be this 5th fret 2nd string. We're going to hit it with some vibrato. Now that note is an E note, so it's going to work perfectly because it's in the key of the song. The song's in the key of E. So we're going to just play that note on the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're just going to let it happen on the 4. That way there's some space in between the notes. You don't want to just throw notes all around. 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, so that's the first little thing, just to kind of get a groove going and a note to happen sort of sporadically. Now, we're going to, remember I said you can do a bend here on this 7th fret 2nd string. You can do a full bend. We're going to add that to the note that we just played. So we're going to go like this. 1, 2, 3. One, 2. So notice that's coming in on the 3. 1, 2, 3. That little bend. And it works over all of this. Now you can start to mix it up a little bit. You don't have to be super rigid. This isn't a thing where you count all the time. You got to get your head out of it and start to play some ideas like same notes here, right? 7th fret, 5th fret. Sometimes I'm bending. Sometimes I'm playing the 7th fret without the bend, which is another note. And then I'm back to this 5th fret 2nd string. Now let's just look at those 3 notes and look at what we can do with those. Eric Clapton does these bends like that where he'll take that note and he'll bend and even hit it several times. Across multiple chords like that. It gives you time to sort of let the music breathe. It also gives your brain a chance to think of what to do next. So there's a double benefit of doing that. I'm just amazed at what you can do with these 3 notes. Now we've got a few other notes here. We've got down on this a 3rd string, 4th fret, 6th fret. We've got those notes. Notice I keep coming to this note now. I keep kind of highlighting this 6th fret 4th string. And that's in this little triangle. I've talked about this in other lessons. Right here. So this is your major pentatonic scale triangle. If you want to know what pattern we're in pattern 4 of your major pentatonic scale. But it's inside of our C shape using the E chord. I'm just connecting it all for you. Look at that. So I'm just using that triangle now. So it's 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 6th fret 3rd string, and then there's a bend on the 7th fret 2nd string. That's it. Now if I just took those notes, let's come up to this 7th fret 1st string. And now add that note in. So now we've got even more emotion. I can do that anywhere. I can do this bend anywhere, over either of those chords. Okay, let me show you one other little idea here. I think you're going to like this. So, everything we've been doing is major pentatonic scale. There's some minor pentatonic scale stuff that's right in this neighborhood that sounds really good, and you need to know this. So, that full bend is on the 7th fret 2nd string, right? If I come up one more fret to the 8th fret 2nd string and do a full bend, you can already hear it. It's bluesy, right? So, by just going up one fret, I can throw in the blues. Right? There's another one, which is the 6th fret 3rd string. I can do a half bend down here. Now I mentioned Eric Clapton playing No Alibis. He would do this sort of half bend a lot in that song. So you can see that I can play an entire lead using just this little area here. It has nothing to do with technique, speed, synchronization, all of those things that trip us up. It has everything to do with just playing what you feel. Leave space in between the notes. I cannot stress this enough. Don't rush it. Just start off with the one note and then start building up to something. Okay, so I just got an idea that I'm going to upload for premium members for this lesson, and that is I'm going to take the jam track and just take that first part, those first 2 chords that I was just improvising over, and I'm going to put that up. I'll put a long version up so that you can download that and you can practice playing over just those chords and see what you can come up with. So I'll make that available as well. All right, let's listen to the first part of what I played in the intro, and we'll talk about what's going on. Break it down. All right, so a lot of this should be kind of self-explanatory because we covered a lot of this in that little improv example there. But all right, so this first note is the E note, 5th fret, 2nd string. That note that we talked about, it comes in on the 4, just like we talked about in that intro. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now after that I went. So some full bends there. I think there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 on that 7th fret, 2nd string. So, and those come in on like the end of 2, I think. I'm not going to get into counting all of these. It'll drive us crazy. So that first note comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and somewhere like that, like on the end of 2. All right, so I love this next lick because it's got a little bit of blues sprinkled in it. It goes. All right, so let's talk about what's going on there. So it's a half bend on the 6th fret, 3rd string. Then you play that note without the bend. Now remember, we just talked about this. When you do that half bend right here, you're playing a minor pentatonic scale note. So this is bending into the minor pentatonic scale. That's why it sounds more bluesy. Now I come down to this note, which is the 7th fret, 4th string. That's actually in the minor pentatonic scale as well. Sorry, I'm trying to stick to those 4 notes, or those handful of notes that I showed you in the beginning. But anyway, it's okay. I stepped out of bounds a little bit, but it still works and it sounds good because it's in the minor pentatonic scale for the key of the song, E minor pentatonic scale. Now after this little lick, I love this. This is 5th fret, 4th string. Do a hammer onto the 6th fret on that 4th string, and then you come up here while that note's ringing out, by the way. With my middle finger, I have my index finger come up to the 5th fret, 2nd string and hit that E note again. Now those notes that I'm playing there, I'm thinking about the E chord, right? Using the C shape. Those 2 notes are in that chord. That's just how I think about it. It's a harmonized 6 actually that lives inside that chord. So in my head, I just sort of went there. I went to that, into that harmonized 6, which lives inside of your C shape. Hopefully you see what I'm talking about there. I'm trying not to make this about chords and all of that, but some of that stuff just happens. So we have, now after that, another little bend and release, 7th fret, 2nd string. And then I come down to that 6th fret, 3rd string. And we resolve to that E note, the 5th fret, 2nd string. Notice I kind of keep coming back to that note. It's the perfect note for the whole thing. It just sort of, it's the note name of the key of the song. So it's our E note. It's going to work over everything. Now for this, we're going to come to this 7th fret, 1st string. We're going to do a full bend and release on this note, or on this string rather. So there's that 7th fret, 1st string. And then we come down to the 7th fret, 2nd string, and we do the same thing. And we do a bend and release with a pull off that results in this 5th fret, 2nd string. So my index finger was already there on the 5th fret, 2nd string. So I could do that. So it goes like this. And then we go back to the 7th fret, 2nd string with another bend. So I just let the note ring out, push it into a bend, and then we come back to that E note. So and then we're going to do 2 more bends on the 7th fret, 2nd string. Now this time, I didn't do a full bend. I didn't go. I went. And when you do that half bend on that 7th fret, 2nd string, you're pushing to this note, which is in your minor pentatonic scale. So that's another place you can do the minor pentatonic thing, just by doing a half bend versus a full bend. Major. Minor pentatonic scale. You can hear the difference. So it's down to the 5th fret, 2nd string, 6th fret, 3rd string. That's that little triangle. That triangle is incredibly powerful. So I played, and then watch this. And we're gonna go down to this note here. So from this 5th fret, 2nd string, we're gonna play 6th fret, 3rd string, and then we're gonna go 7, 5 on the 2nd string, back to the 6th fret, 3rd string, and then that last note we're gonna hit there is 4th fret, 3rd string, and that gets us into the B part of the song, which I'm gonna save for part 2. But the big thing I want you to think about with this, I mean, it doesn't seem like much, right? Even when you're looking at the tab, you're like, okay, this is all kind of basic. This isn't designed to be complex. It isn't designed to be clever in any way. It's just singing. It's just singing with your fingers. And just like your voice, like we all have a different approach to our vibrato and how we take a breath and all of those things which make our voice sound like us. Some people have raspy voice. Some people have, all kinds of different sounds. The same is true with your fingers and the little nuance in how you flick a string or how you do a hammer on or a pull off or a bend or a vibrato. It's all you and your sound. And so that's the thing to get excited about, is to take these ideas and these notes here, especially just grab that jam track, the first part, the section A, which just goes over these 2 chords, and just start with a note and then start adding to it. You've got enough with those few notes to be able to express yourself and make some very meaningful sounding stuff. So it doesn't have to be all over the fretboard. It doesn't have to be fast either. That should give you some comfort. When I realized that, and it was guys like Eric Clapton that made me realize it, when I realized that I too can do some of that stuff, it was like such a comforting feeling, and it gave me hope. And I hope you have some hope too. And we'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the rest of this lead. Now, if you've liked this lesson, this video, leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know if any of this has been a breakthrough for you, or you've just like realized something that you've never seen before or thought about. That's huge and helpful to me. It's helpful to other people too that are in the same shoes that you're in. We're all trying to learn this stuff. And if you've got questions, leave those as well. I do read all the comments. All right, we'll see you in part 2.